Hello, magical experimenters. Taylor Ellwood here, and welcome to our next show. And today I am talking about how to apply awareness to magical practice. So last time I talked about how to cultivate awareness in your life, and I referred to this amazing book by this fellow by the name of Anthony DeMello called Awareness. And there's another book I'm going to actually refer to. I got the pocket version of it called The Way of Love by Anthony DeMello, which, again, absolutely amazing. It builds off of the work that he talks about in awareness. So I highly recommend this book. It's another life-changing book along with all the other things I've been reading lately. Oh man, it's amazing. I look at where I was a few months ago and I look at where I'm at now, and it's like a complete transformation. I am happier than I've ever been in my life, and it is just amazing and wonderful. And a huge part of that's that self-love work that I keep talking about on my Facebook, and that I'll be talking about more here. Anyway, we're going to talk about applying awareness to magic, and I think this is a really important topic to consider because a lot of times, and I say this as much about myself as anyone else. I think that we end up applying magic from a place of unconscious awareness or unconscious leanings where we don't really pay attention to what the internal motivation is. And I've done a lot of work around this in the past, but this awareness work that I'm doing is bringing it to a whole new level, and put it that way. So before we get into that, if you are a frequent flyer, go ahead and like this video and leave a comment. If you're somebody who's new here, click the subscribe button and the notification bell so that way you get notified when I go live. All right, with all that out of the way, let's talk about awareness and magic. So awareness is really cultivating this state of being where you are showing awareness of your actions and your motivations and things like that, and you understand where they are coming from, and you're choosing to act from that awareness as opposed to acting from a place of non-awareness, we'll say. Our routine, the way that Anthony DeMello puts it, and it reminds me a lot of Robert Anton Wilson's eight circuit model. Well, Timothy Leary and Wilson's eight circuit model is kind of and John Lilly's programming the human biocomputer, is he talks about how we basically are living, we when we're living our lives, our sense of personality and individuality is not really as individuals we think. It's really based on programming that we've learned from our parents, and that we've learned from society and from culture. And that's true. I mean, when you really think about it, we have certain values that are instilled in us at a very impressionable age, and with certain habits and things like that. We learn certain things. I mean, if you look at your money habits, for example, chances are you've learned how to relate to money because of what your parents did or didn't teach you about money. Does that mean that what you've learned is true? Not necessarily. If anything, it's an invitation to revisit what you think you know about money and explore it. Well, if we take that same understanding and apply it to our magical work, and really just to life in general, we start to see, okay, here's all the ways that I've lived a very patterned life, a very programmed life. So is that really me, or is that just the patterns of other people that have been instilled upon me? Now, I want to make a point that even if you are living on the basis of those patterns, that doesn't take away from your responsibility. So people might say, well, I can't help the way that I act because you know these things were instilled upon me by other people and I had no choice. I can't take responsibility for any of those things. And I would disagree and say, no, I mean, your choices are still your choices. They may be informed by your programming. They may be informed by the way you have been taught and values you've been instilled with. They may even be informed by the way you've rebelled against those patterns and come up with some of your own, but nonetheless have done it as an unconscious reflex, if you will, against what was instilled in you. But it doesn't change the fact that you have responsibility. However, where we can be let off the hook is that we may not always recognize and understand how to take responsibility for those things. And what I mean by that is, if I don't know that if I don't know or understand the way that things have understand the underlying motivations for what I'm doing, then while I'm responsible for for my actions, my awareness of those actions may be greatly hindered by what I don't know. And once I understand and know something, that changes things. At one point, Anthony DeMello in the book Awareness, he says, instead of hearing someone apologize and say, I'm sorry, he said, I would rather that they said, I'm aware now of what I've done and it won't happen again. And I really meditated on that and thought about it. And I'm like, yeah, that's a better approach to taking to things because, an apology is kind of like, well, I'm sorry that this happened. Okay. But are you aware of why it happened? Are you aware of what was going on? Are you aware of your tendencies and your patterns and your programs and your behaviors? If you aren't, now's the time to become aware of those things. And I think that that's really a good approach to take where you can say, okay, I'm aware of these things. Now I'm aware of this, and it's not going to happen again because I'm aware of it. And I've started applying that approach myself to my magical work as a result into my life because I'm like, okay, how can I take this awareness that I've cultivated and apply it? And I'm like, well, first thing I need to do is apply it toward the programming and be like, okay, I'm aware of, for example, my codependent programming. And now that I'm aware of it, I can change it. And that's one of the biggest things that I'm doing right now. I'm actively working away on making these changes. This goes back to what I was talking about in the previous video, where if you truly want to change the world around you, first you have to change yourself. So let's apply that to magic then. Let's say we want to do a practical magical working. Okay. We want to do a magical working to accomplish some type of thing that's going to meaningfully change our lives. Well, first of all, we do need to recognize that the changes that we're making have to occur within as well as without. We need to make a change on an identity level. All right. If you're just focused on external results, then you're not setting yourself up for making the changes that you want to manifest in your life. What you're setting yourself up for is maybe temporarily getting those changes and then boop, they go away. And why do they go away? Because if you haven't formed an internal agreement with what you're going for, it's going to go away. This is where awareness can come into play, because if I am aware of what it is that I want, and I am aware of the changes I need to make within myself, then I can make those changes and have those changes actually inform the work that I'm doing. And I think a lot of times with this kind of thing, we'll do a practical magical working. Like I'll be like, okay, I'm going to do this practical magical working to, make make a new job appear, something like that. But if I haven't done the internal work to prepare for that, it won't matter if I get that new job or not. That job will probably end up going away. I think it's a crucial thing to recognize about our magical work is that we have to change what is within as well as without. And we do that with awareness, because what awareness allows us to do is to really take a good hard look at ourselves and say, okay, is where I am at and who I am I ready for this thing that I want to manifest? Am I ready for this result? Well, if I'm not ready, then that's going to go away. But it does one other thing too. It also says, am I clinging to the desire for this result? So one of the things that awareness can help us do is get rid of the attachments, because attachments are born out of fear. When we are feeling attachments to something, we are feeling attached because we are afraid of losing something. We're afraid of not having something or whatever else. And I say this as somebody who's definitely been a person who has gotten very attached sometimes to results, to people, to things, etc. When I really look at those attachments, I see that they are born out of a reflexive fear of being abandoned, that they are born out of a reflexive fear of losing something important to me, that they are born out of a reflexive fear of not being loved. Well, taking this awareness work and applying it has really opened my eyes to all of this in a different way. And when I've added in the self-love practices, what's changed is that now I'm not feeling so attached to things. I'm not going to say that all my attachments are suddenly gone. They're not. I mean, I'm still working my way through this. But the work that I'm doing is really informing my magical practice, and it's opening doors for me because I'm not feeling so stuck on having things happen a certain way like I used to be. I'm not so stuck on trying to protect the status quo. Instead, I'm like, well, I'm going to do this work and I'm going to let it go. And when I start to feel attached to something, I can recognize it now. Like today, I was starting to feel attached to a specific result. I had done a magical working, um, and I'm not going to really tell you what the magical working was for, but I did a magical working, and I got some initial good results. And I'm like, all right, this is awesome. I'm like, yeah, the magic's working. This is what I wanted. And then I started to get attached to those results. So this morning, I'm like, let's apply the self love. Why? Because the self love is really important here. So I was like, oh, I'm going to apply the self love to this. I started loving myself and I started opening myself to receiving that self love. And as I did, I started feeling that attachment dissolve and go away. And I'm like, I don't need to hold on to this. If this result, if this initial result doesn't work out, it's not the end of the world. There will be more results. Things are going to. What I'm doing is clearing the way so that these results can manifest. But I can't be attached to them. I have to be willing to just let go of whatever comes and enjoy the experience instead of clinging to the experience. There's a very real difference between that. When you cling to an experience, you're holding on to it so tight that you aren't actually enjoying it. And we've all had that experience where you have something or someone or whatever that comes into your life and you are holding on so tight to that experience. You don't want it to go away. But everything passes, everything moves on. We have no and I think this is one of the most important lessons we can ever learn is that there is no such thing as infinity or forever or whatever. Things change. Life is change. So if we learn instead to relax into the experience and enjoy it, and to feel this deep sense of joy and satisfaction with whatever is, instead of trying to cling to something, to an expected outcome, then we are able to really be with it. So today I'm feeling this attachment to this result, and I recognize it. I'm like, okay, I'm going to let the result. I'm going to let this go. I mean, I'm happy that the result's there, and if it sticks around for a while, if things work out, great. But if they don't, they don't. But the key thing is I'm going to let go of the attachment around this. I'm going to show awareness. Really, when I let go of the attachment, that's when I really started to allow myself to receive the result. This was important for me because I'm doing a lot of work around receiving right now. We aren't in general taught how to receive, and I know, speaking for myself, that I have never been comfortable with receiving from other people. I haven't even been comfortable with receiving from myself, and there's reasons for that. I actually shared it on a post on Facebook, but I realized, like, fundamentally, like, I'm like, I can be okay with things the way they are. I can relax into this and just enjoy it and not have something be a certain way. If it works out, it works out. If it doesn't, it doesn't. Whatever ends up happening will happen. Whatever doesn't happen won't happen. And yes, I can do magic for it. And there's nothing wrong with doing magic for it. But what I need to do is, if I really want that magic to work, is I need to let go of the fixation on how that magic is going to manifest something. I need to let go of the attachment to the result if I get it, and just enjoy the experience for however long I have it. And when I start to feel that attachment, that's where I got to apply the self love. Because when I apply the self love to myself, that's when I really start to melt into the experience. And I feel the walls around my heart melt, and I feel myself just flow and relax, and I'm there. And it is a beautiful experience then at that point. It becomes this thing where you just relax into it, and you're like, here I am, and this is where I'm at, and this is what I'm doing. And it just makes you feel this deep richness and joy. And I think that that's really the key thing. Like, you want to do magical work, right? Do it from a place of joy and purpose. Do it from a place of passion and connection. Do it from a place where at the same time you're able to let go of that result. The result is temporary. And you may get it to stick for a while with your identity work, but at some point something's going to change in your life and you're going to need something other than that result, and so you end up doing magical work for that. I mean, that's the thing that I think a lot of times people forget with magical work. We were like, okay, we're going to do this magic, get this result. Okay. And we have this notion that somehow the result is going to be there forever, but it's not. Things are going to change. Your life is going to change. Something is going to happen that will change. And when it changes, you're going to do magic for something else and it may change that result anyway. So, get comfortable with it. Life is change. Embrace the change and love it and love yourself. I'm going to be doing a lot more talking about self-love on this video, these video features, and I'm doing this because this has changed my life in such a fundamental way. It has brought me a deeper sense of joy and satisfaction and contentment than I have ever felt. I'm in love with myself, I think, for the first time ever, and it is such an interesting thing. It's like, wow, here's this amazing person, and here's this amazing world, and I'm stepping into the joys of sacred masculinity and really embracing that and being like, yeah, this is what it means to be a man in this world, what it can be to accept this particular gift that I have, this gift of embodied experience. So, I mean, these things are happening. But then on top of that, like I said, this is continuing to change my magical practice. And it's really been where my magical practice has been going over the last few years. But more so than ever, it's kind of like, okay, if this is what my magical practice is meant to be, then I joyfully accept. Accept the experience, embrace the experience, let go of the attachment. And what you will find is this fundamental presence in your life, this power, this being that allows you to enjoy the experience in the moment instead of clinging to it. And you won't, and it's different from pleasure. Like you can pleasure is like, okay, like you have the experience of having like really good sex, for example. That's pleasurable, right? But pleasure comes and goes. But deep joy, deep contentment is something that you can feel regardless of what your circumstances are, regardless of how trying they can be. And I'm not saying this is a toxic positivity thing, okay? Because we can have unhappy circumstances and we will have unhappy circumstances. I'm not under any illusions, for example, that I'm not going to have tough times in the future, because sometimes that'll happen. That's a reality of life. And I mean, even now, I can say there are some days where things are harder, and all that. Like Friday, yesterday was not a good day. We'll put it that way. But I applied my self love as best I could, and I got through it. And I was like, okay, it is what it is, and I made it through. And it was a good reminder to me too that like the rough times are really transitory too. Like people get caught up, and I've been guilty of this. They get caught up in like, oh, I'm going to be in this rough time forever. No, you're not. You're going to be in it for a little while. At some point, it will pass, but learn the lessons, embrace them, embrace the opportunity with joy if you can, with self-love, no matter what. And when you're doing magic around all these things, do it without being attached to the result. Let the result happen and enjoy it and experience it and appreciate it, and then let it go and keep moving forward. Because whatever ends up happening, it is going to be a beautiful and amazing experience regardless. You just have to operate from a place of self love, a place of reception, and a place of recognition, of awareness of your patterns. See your patterns of behavior for what they are, see how they get in the way of things, and let them go. And that will change your life. It'll change the way you practice magic. It'll change a lot of things for you. I'm finding that to be true, and I'm only 2 months into this self love practice that I've been doing. So I'm thinking to myself, wow, if this is how I feel 2 months in, how am I going to feel the rest of my life if I do this? And I'm sticking with it every day. I have a vow I say to myself every day now, multiple times a day, and it just holds true. All right, so that is our video today, and I leave that with you. We kind of went in a couple different directions, but I leave you with this. If you're going to do magical work, apply apply awareness to it. Apply awareness to, like, why am I doing this magical work? What is it that I'm hoping to get? How much of this is operating from a place of programming, of patterned thinking and experiences and things like that that may not even be mine? Do I really want that? If you can apply that awareness to it, it will change your magical work because you'll be more thoughtful about it and you're going to really consider all the angles before you decide to do a magical working. All right. Thank you and have a great weekend.